Daniel White straightened his uniform jacket and took a deep breath. After 15 years as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, he had learned to hide his frustration behind a diplomatic smile. Today, that skill would be tested more than ever. The massive council chamber buzzed with the voices of 200 alien species. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others stood on specialized platforms, and many sat in chairs modified for their unique bodies. Humans were among the newest members of this ancient organization, having joined after their first faster-than-light journey led to contact with the Narratians. The Council recognizes Ambassador White of Earth, announced the Xeraxian chairperson, her scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the chamber. Daniel walked to the center platform. "Thank you, chairperson. I come before the Council today with a simple request. The neutral zone between the Orion Arm and Perseus Arm contains 3 developing human colonies. We ask that the Council enforce its own protection laws regarding developing worlds and prevent resource extraction within 2 light-years of these colonies." Murmurs filled the chamber. Daniel knew his request was reasonable. The Council's own laws clearly protected developing settlements from disruptive activities. The chairperson's inner eyelids blinked slowly. The Council has reviewed Earth's petition and finds insufficient evidence that mining operations would impact human colonies. The petition is denied. Daniel felt his jaw tighten, but maintained his calm expression. "Chairperson, our scientific reports clearly show that the proposed mining would cause significant disruption to." "The decision is final, Ambassador," the chairperson interrupted. "Next matter." Back at the Earth Embassy, Daniel loosened his collar and sank into his chair. Samantha Lee, his chief lieutenant, stood at the doorway with a grim expression. "You need to see this, sir," she said, placing a data tablet on his desk. Daniel picked it up and began reading. His eyes widened. "Are you certain this is accurate?" Samantha nodded. "I verified it myself. My contact in the Nilarian delegation provided access to these sealed council records." The tablet showed classified council documents authorizing extensive Xeraxian mining operations in the neutral zone, operations that would begin in less than a month. Worse, environmental impact studies had confirmed exactly what Earth had claimed. The mining would cause devastating damage to the human colonies. "They didn't just deny our petition," Daniel said quietly. "They lied about the evidence and had already approved the Xeraxian operation before we even presented our case." "That's not all," Samantha said, reaching over to swipe to the next document. "Look at the date." Daniel felt cold anger rising as he saw the timestamp. This was approved 6 months ago, while they were telling us to conduct more studies and prepare a formal petition. Samantha added, "They were stalling us, sir." Daniel stood and walked to the window overlooking the gleaming spires of the council capital. In 15 years, Earth had brought medical innovations that saved billions of alien lives. Human engineers had solved the Veltar energy crisis. Earth's military had even helped defend council worlds during the Morgoth border conflicts. Yet humans remained second-class citizens in the council. Their petitions were routinely denied. Their territories received minimal protection. Their scientific findings were questioned while those of older species were accepted without debate. "Prepare a secure channel to Earth," Daniel told Samantha. "President Martinez needs to see this immediately." "What do you think will happen?" Samantha asked. Daniel looked at the sprawling council city one more time. "I think 15 years of trying to be good galactic citizens is about to end." As Samantha left to establish the secure channel, Daniel reviewed the evidence again. This wasn't just routine political maneuvering. The Council had deliberately deceived Earth while endangering human lives. Something fundamental would have to change. The question was whether the Council understood what they had set in motion. Humans had joined the galactic community with open hands and hopeful hearts. But even human patience had limits. President Laura Martinez stood at the window of the Oval Office, looking at the Washington Monument in the distance. The morning sun made the white stone glow. Behind her, the room was filled with Earth's top officials. Defense Secretary Alan Scott, Vice President George Harris, and several military officers sat in tense silence as they reviewed the evidence from Ambassador White. "So the Council has been lying to us for months," Laura said, turning back to face the room. "And they plan to start mining operations that will make our colonies unlivable." "Yes, Madam President," replied the holographic image of Daniel White. "Lieutenant Lee discovered the documents yesterday. The mining begins in 3 weeks." Laura sat down at her desk. "What are our options?" Secretary Scott cleared his throat. "We could file a formal protest, but based on past experience, they'll ignore it. We could try to physically block the mining ships, but that risks military conflict with the insurrections, who have council backing. Or," Laura asked, sensing he had more to say, "or we could implement Protocol Midnight." The room went silent. Protocol Midnight had been developed 5 years earlier as a contingency plan for Earth's complete withdrawal from the Galactic Council. It outlined steps for removing all human diplomats, securing Earth's territories, and establishing independent relationships with friendly species. It had always been considered a last resort. Laura looked at each person in the room. "I want your honest opinions. Is it time?" For the next hour, they debated. Vice President Harris worried about economic consequences. Admiral Julie Bennett pointed out the strategic advantages of acting decisively. Secretary Scott detailed military preparations already in place. Finally, Laura raised her hand for silence. "We joined the Council in good faith. We've been patient. We've followed their rules. And in return, they've treated us as lesser beings and now directly threaten our people." She stood up. "It's time to show them who we really are. Implement Protocol Midnight immediately." 12 hours later, Laura stood before cameras broadcasting to Earth and its colonies. The same feed was being transmitted to the Galactic Council and all known spacefaring civilizations. "Citizens of Earth and our colonies, representatives of the galactic community," she began. "For 15 years, humanity has participated in the Galactic Council with honor and good faith. We have shared our medical advances, offered our technological innovations, and stood ready to help any world in need." She paused, her expression firm, but not angry. "In return, we have been consistently marginalized, our concerns dismissed, and our people endangered. Recently, we discovered the Council secretly authorized mining operations that threatened 3 human colony worlds, while publicly denying our petition to protect those same worlds." Laura straightened her shoulders. "Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. All human diplomats are being recalled. All Council representatives on Earth will be respectfully escorted to their ships. Earth will now pursue independent relationships with individual species based on mutual respect and honest dealings." In the Council chambers, Daniel White watched the broadcast alongside other human diplomats. Around them, alien representatives whispered and gestured. Some looked shocked, others angry, a few seemed almost pleased. "Ambassador, you cannot simply leave," the Direction chairperson said when the broadcast ended. "There are protocols, procedures." "Not anymore," Daniel replied calmly. "My title of ambassador no longer applies. Earth has spoken." As the human delegation began packing their belongings, Daniel received a secure message from Secretary Scott. "Protocol Midnight is in effect. All military units on alert. Colonial defenses activated. Safe journey home." Across the galaxy, on military bases, trading posts, and diplomatic missions, humans began an orderly withdrawal. Ships changed course. Communications channels shifted. Supply lines reorganized. Earth wasn't just leaving the Council. It was completely changing the rules of engagement with the galaxy. And none of the Council races fully understood what that would mean for them. The Council chambers erupted into noise after the human delegation left. 200 different species all tried to speak at once. Some shouted demands for punishment. Others called for calm. Many simply wanted to understand what this meant for their own worlds. "Order. We will have order." The Direction chairperson's voice boomed through the chamber. The noise slowly died down. This outrageous behavior by the humans cannot stand. I propose immediate sanctions against Earth and all human colonies." The Veltar representative, Commander Zik, rose from his seat. His long, thin body stretched up nearly 15 feet. "Sanctions are insufficient. The humans have resources and territories we need. I suggest we form a military coalition to bring them back into line." More shouting followed. The Morgoth ambassador pounded his metal-covered fist on his desk. "Any military action near our borders will be considered a threat to the Empire." In the corner of the chamber, Elder Tanith of the Nilarians observed quietly. The Nilarians were among the oldest species in the Council, known for their wisdom and foresight. When she finally spoke, her soft voice somehow carried over the chaos. "I caution against hasty action," she said. "The humans are young, yes, but they are not simple. If they chose to leave rather than fight within our system, they must believe they have a better position outside it." The Xeraxian chairperson's scales flushed red. "Are you suggesting we fear these primitives?" "I am suggesting," Tanith replied calmly, "that underestimating them would be unwise. I have studied human history. When threatened, they become remarkably creative." Meanwhile, the human ship Freedom carried Daniel White and the Earth delegation away from the Council station. Daniel sat in his private cabin, reviewing reports from across human space. "All colony worlds have been notified," Samantha Lee said as she entered with more data tablets. "Civilian evacuation from potentially hostile territories is proceeding smoothly. Our military vessels have taken up defensive positions at key jump points." Daniel nodded. "And the Nilarians?" "They've sent a private communication expressing understanding of our position. No hostility there." "Good. They're one of the few council races I genuinely respect," Daniel said. "What about the Xeraxians?" Samantha's expression darkened. "As expected, they're calling for sanctions and possible military action. 3 of their battle cruisers have changed course toward the neutral zone. Heading for those mining sites, no doubt," Daniel said. "They won't find it as easy as they expect." Across human territory, a carefully planned strategy was unfolding. Military bases that had remained hidden from Council surveys powered up their defenses. Stealth satellites moved into position around colony worlds. Trading ships converted to defensive platforms at strategic locations. For years, humans had publicly maintained a minimal military presence to appear non-threatening to the Council. In private, they had prepared for the possibility that the Council's promises of protection might prove empty. On the colony world of New Eden, Governor Frank Miller watched as civilian defense drills commenced. The colony's 3 million inhabitants had practiced these procedures quarterly. Now they moved with purpose, not panic. "Shield generators online," reported his security chief. "Underground shelters ready if needed. Militia units deployed." Frank nodded. "And our guests?" "The Xeraxian mining survey team has been detained comfortably. They don't seem to understand why their communications aren't working." Frank looked at the star map showing the approaching Xeraxian vessels. "They'll figure it out soon enough." Back on Earth, Secretary Scott entered the President's office with updated reports. "Protocol Midnight is proceeding exactly as planned, Madam President. All key positions secured, defensive systems ready." Laura Martinez looked up from her desk. "And how are the Council races reacting?" "Just as we predicted. The Xeraxians and Veltar are threatening action. The Morgoth are using the distraction to push their own agenda. And the other races are scrambling to figure out where they stand." Laura nodded slowly. "Then we've made the right choice. Now we wait." 1 month after Earth's withdrawal, Captain Olivia Ross stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel, steadfast. Through the main view screen, she watched a Veltar warship firing on its Xeraxian supply convoy. Neither side had noticed her ship yet, hidden behind a small moon. "Record everything," she ordered her crew. "But maintain our position. We don't intervene." Lieutenant Ben Cooper looked up from his station. "Captain, the Xeraxian ships are taking heavy damage. There are civilian transports in that convoy." Olivia's face remained calm. but her eyes showed her struggle. "Our orders are clear. We observe and report only. This is Council space, and those are Council problems." For 3 weeks, the Steadfast had patrolled the edge of former human territory, monitoring the growing conflicts between Council races. Without human diplomats to mediate their old disputes, centuries of tension had erupted into open hostility. The Insurrections and Veltar Confederation now fought over the very mining rights that had triggered Earth's departure. The Morgoth Empire had sent warships into 3 previously neutral systems. Smaller Council races scrambled to align themselves with whoever might protect them. "Captain," called Communications Officer Megan Wright, "we're receiving a distress signal. A civilian transport has broken away from the convoy. They're asking for assistance." Olivia gripped the arms of her command chair. "What species?" "The signal identifies them as Kintari. They're not involved in the conflict, just caught in the middle." The Kintari were a peaceful species known for their artistic achievements. They had always been friendly to humans in council meetings. "How many aboard?" Olivia asked. "Sensors show approximately 200 life signs," Ben replied. "Mostly civilian patterns. They have children on board, Captain." Olivia stood and walked closer to the view screen. Earth's non-intervention policy was absolute. They would not fight for or against any council race. But there was nothing in those orders about humanitarian assistance. "Move us between the Kintari ship and the Veltar warship," she ordered. "Shields at maximum. Hail the Kintari vessel." The Steadfast glided out from behind the moon and took position beside the damaged transport. Both the Veltar and Siraxian ships immediately ceased fire, surprised by the human vessel's sudden appearance. "Kintari vessel, this is Captain Ross of Earth ship Steadfast. We are offering humanitarian evacuation. Prepare your people for emergency transport." Within 20 minutes, the Kintari refugees were safely aboard the Steadfast. Their transport, too damaged to continue, was abandoned. The Veltar warship sent an angry message demanding the humans leave Council space. Olivia ignored it and set course for the nearest neutral station. In the ship's mess hall, now converted to temporary quarters, Olivia walked among the Kintari families. They bowed deeply as she passed. "Thank you, Captain," their elder said, his voice musical even in distress. "The Council told us humans had become dangerous and unpredictable, yet you risked your ship for us." "We haven't abandoned our principles," Olivia replied. "Only a broken system." Back on Earth, President Martinez reviewed reports from ships like the Steadfast. Human vessels across the galaxy were witnessing similar conflicts while maintaining their new policy of non-intervention, except when innocent lives were at risk. "The power vacuum is worse than we predicted," Laura said to Secretary Scott. "The Council is fracturing along old division lines." Scott nodded. "As expected. For centuries, the older races used the Council to control the newer ones. Without that structure, they're turning on each other." "And the humanitarian missions, all successful so far. We've evacuated over 6,000 civilians from conflict zones. Each rescue increases our standing with the neutral races." Laura turned to the window. "Make sure Captain Ross and her crew receive commendations. That's exactly the balance we need to strike, staying out of their political wars while showing we still stand for something better." Outside Council space, a new pattern was emerging. Ships from non-aligned worlds increasingly looked to human vessels for protection. Trade requests with Earth doubled, then tripled. Species that had never dared oppose the Council began to reconsider their positions. The galaxy was changing, system by system. Joseph Miller walked through the busy trading hub on Centauri Prime, Earth's largest off-world colony. As Earth's trade director, he had spent the last 3 months reshaping humanity's economic relationships with other species. Today would be his most important meeting yet. The restaurant overlooked the spaceport where ships from 30 different worlds loaded and unloaded cargo. Joseph spotted his appointment already seated at a corner table, Ambassador Krell of the Andorian Federation, a species that had been in the Council for over 500 years. "Thank you for meeting privately," Krell said after Joseph sat down. His blue skin contrasted with his silver uniform. The council would not approve of this discussion. Joseph smiled. "Yet here you are. The council's economic committee has predicted 15% shrinkage in galactic trade since Earth's withdrawal. The actual number is closer to 30% and growing. Many worlds depended on human goods." Joseph took a sip of water. "That's why I wanted to meet. Earth is prepared to offer the Andorian Federation direct access to our medical technology and agricultural products." Krell's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. "Without council oversight or tariffs." "Correct. A direct trade agreement between our worlds. The same offer we've made to 12 other species who have shown themselves to be fair partners. And for those who supported the council's actions against Earth." Joseph's expression hardened slightly. "No offers have been extended to them." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Humanity had previously shared its innovations through council channels, where they were heavily taxed and controlled. Now Earth offered its technologies and resources directly to selected allies through exclusive agreements. On the Xeraxian homeworld, Economic Minister Shrav reviewed the latest reports with growing alarm. Their economy had depended on taxing trade between newer species and older ones. With direct trade routes forming between Earth and many worlds, that revenue was vanishing. Worse, their military now competed with the Velter for control of systems that no longer held the value they once did. "We must force the humans back to the council," Shrav told his government. "Our economic model depends on control of interstellar trade." The Xeraxian leader flared her neck scales in frustration. "Force has proven difficult. 3 of our warships approached the neutral zone last month. They found human defenses already established and operational. Defenses we knew nothing about." On Earth, President Martinez met with her economic advisors. The holographic display showed trade routes spreading from Earth like a web, connecting directly to worlds that had broken free from council influence. "Phase 2 of our economic strategy is complete," Joseph reported. 37 former council worlds now have direct trade agreements with Earth. Council tax revenue has dropped by 45%. Laura nodded. "And our own economy? Growing steadily. Without council tariffs, our exports are more competitive. The medical supplies we're sending to the Kinturi homeworld cost us half what they did under council rules, but they're still saving lives." Secretary Scott added, "The military situation remains stable. The Xeraxians tested our defenses once but haven't returned. The Velter are too busy fighting the Morgoth over disputed territories to concern themselves with us." "And the mining operation that started all this?" Laura asked. Joseph smiled. "Abandoned. With the trade routes disrupted and security costs rising, the Xeraxians calculated it was no longer profitable. Our colonies are safe." Late that night, Laura stood alone in the Oval Office. Reports from across human space showed their position strengthening daily. Species that had ignored humanity for years now sought their friendship. Worlds that had dismissed humans as backward now requested their technology. Earth hadn't just withdrawn from a political body. It had fundamentally altered the economic foundation of the galaxy. The Council had believed its control of trade routes and technologies made it untouchable. Humans had proven otherwise. A message alert sounded from her desk. The Nilarian elder Tanith had requested a private meeting with Earth representatives. Unlike most Council species, the Nilarians had never treated humans with disdain. Perhaps they saw the future more clearly than the others. Laura sent her approval for the meeting. The galaxy was changing rapidly. It was time to see who would join humanity's new path forward. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Attendance had dropped each month as more species either stopped coming or formally withdrew their membership. Today, only 120 of the original 200 members were present. The Xeraxian chairperson looked notably thinner, her scales dull from stress. "We must address the Andorian Federation's announced intention to leave the Council," she said. "This cannot be permitted." From their seats, the Andorian delegates stood as one. "Our decision is final," their leader stated. "The economic benefits of direct partnership with Earth and other independent worlds outweigh any advantages of remaining in this failing institution." "Traitors," shouted a Veltar representative. "The Council has stood for 10,000 years. You cannot simply walk away." "Watch us," the Andorian replied calmly. His delegation began gathering their belongings. The chairperson slammed her ceremonial staff against the floor. "Council enforcers, prevent the Andorian delegation from leaving. They must be made an example of." Armored guards moved to block the exits. For a moment, the chamber was silent with shock. In all its history, the Council had never physically detained representatives. The Andorian leader's voice was ice. "You would use force to keep us. This proves what Earth has been saying all along. The Council is not about cooperation. It's about control." "Restrain them," the chairperson ordered. The guards raised their weapons. What happened next would be debated for years. Some said an Andorian fired first. Others claimed a guard accidentally discharged his weapon. Regardless, energy blasts soon filled the chamber. Representatives dove for cover as guards and Andorian security forces exchanged fire. A stray shot hit a power conduit. Alarms blared as the station's systems began failing. Smoke filled the chamber as delegates from all species rushed toward escape pods. On the edge of Council space, Commander Eric Johnson of the Earth vessel Vigilant received the distress signal. Multiple life signs in danger. Council headquarters station suffering catastrophic damage. "We're not supposed to enter Council space," his first officer reminded him. Eric's face was grim. "There are innocent diplomats on that station, some from worlds friendly to Earth." He made his decision. "Set course for the station. Prepare all medical facilities and alert the rescue teams." The Vigilant was not a military vessel, but a specialized rescue ship, hidden from Council knowledge during humanity's membership years. Now it raced toward the station, its advanced engines pushing to maximum speed. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. The Council station's central section had suffered severe damage. Escape pods launched in all directions, some damaged and tumbling out of control. "Begin rescue operations," Eric ordered. "Priority to damaged pods and any ships still inside the docking bays." For the next 12 hours, the Vigilant and its crew worked tirelessly. Tractor beams stabilized damaged pods. Medical teams treated injured diplomats regardless of species. Engineering crews even entered the failing station to extract those trapped inside. Among those rescued was Elder Tanith of the Nilarians. As medical staff treated her injuries, she spoke quietly to Commander Johnson. "You came, even though your world left the Council." "We left the Council," Eric corrected. "We didn't abandon our principles." On Earth, emergency meetings convened as news of the Council's collapse spread across the galaxy. The Vigilant's actions had been broadcast by several rescued diplomats. Across dozens of worlds, the image of humans risking their lives to save Council members, including some who had voted against Earth's interests, was causing a significant shift in perception. President Martinez addressed her cabinet. "The Council has effectively collapsed. A third of its members had already withdrawn. Now its headquarters is destroyed and its leadership scattered." Secretary Scott looked troubled. "The power vacuum will cause even more instability." "Then we must provide an alternative," Laura said firmly. "We've shown what we stand against. Now it's time to show what we stand for." Outside her window, a Nilarian ship entered Earth orbit. Elder Tanith had come to discuss the future. 1 month after the Council station's destruction, representatives from 47 worlds gathered on Earth's orbital platform, Unity. The massive structure had been under secret construction for years, originally planned as a backup if Earth ever needed to evacuate its Council diplomats quickly. Now it served a different purpose. Admiral Nicole Garcia stood at the entrance, greeting each delegation as they arrived. At 62, she had spent decades in Earth's space forces. Today, her normally stern face showed cautious hope. "The Andorians have arrived," an aide informed her. That's all expected delegations accounted for. Nicole nodded. Inform President Martinez we're ready to begin. The meeting chamber was unlike the hierarchical council design. Instead of raised platforms for older species and lower positions for newer ones, a simple circular arrangement gave each world equal status. Earth had deliberately taken a position between the Kintari and Nilarians, rather than at the head of the circle. President Martinez entered without ceremony. Representatives of free worlds, thank you for coming. 6 months ago, Earth withdrew from a galactic council that treated newer species as second-class members. We did not expect the council to collapse so completely, nor so quickly. She paused, looking around the room. The galaxy now faces a choice: return to fragmented territories and ancient conflicts, or build something better, something truly equal. Elder Tanith of the Nilarians spoke next. Though her species had been among the council founders, she had argued for fair treatment of younger races for centuries. The old council was built on the idea that age granted privilege. The concordance we propose today is built on mutual respect and proportional representation. No world, however ancient or powerful, will dominate others. For hours, the delegations discussed the proposed alliance. Some wanted strong defensive agreements. Others focused on trade. A few worried about surrendering any sovereignty. Through it all, Earth's representatives listened more than they spoke. In a private chamber nearby, Admiral Garcia met with military leaders from 20 worlds. They reviewed holographic displays of known threats, aggressive council remnants, pirates taking advantage of the chaos, and unusual activity along the galaxy's outer rim. Earth has maintained substantial defenses despite what we showed the council, Nicole explained. We're prepared to commit 30% of our fleet to joint defense operations. An Andorian commander studied the tactical displays. These are impressive capabilities. Why hide them for so long? To avoid appearing threatening, Nicole answered honestly. We knew some council races were looking for any excuse to restrict us further. So we showed outdated ships while building our real fleet in secret. The Andorian laughed. No wonder the Xeraxians retreated when they tested your borders. They expected obsolete cruisers and found modern battleships instead. Back in the main chamber, the discussion had moved to practical matters. Joseph Miller outlined a new trade system with reduced barriers. Daniel White, now Earth's Foreign Secretary, proposed a rotating leadership council instead of a permanent chairperson. That evening, as the first day of talks concluded, President Martinez met privately with Elder Tanith. You realize what you're doing, don't you? The Nilarian asked. You're creating the very thing you left. Laura shook her head. No, the council demanded obedience while offering empty promises of equality. The concordance begins with equality as its foundation. Many will not join, Tanith warned. The Xeraxians, the Velter, they'll see this as a threat. Then they misunderstand our purpose, Laura replied. We don't seek to control or dominate. We only want what we always wanted: fair treatment and honest dealing. From the window, they could see ships from 50 worlds docked at the Unity Station. Some had been enemies for generations before Earth's arrival in space. Now they tentatively explored cooperation instead of competition. Your withdrawal was not an ending, Tanith said softly. It was a beginning. Laura smiled. That was always the plan. 2 years after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Daniel White stood at the observation deck of the Unity Station. Below him, Earth shone blue and green against the darkness of space. Around the station, ships from over 100 worlds moved in careful patterns, guided by human and alien traffic controllers working side by side. Hard to believe it's only been 2 years, said Samantha Lee, now his chief advisor. She handed him a data tablet. The Xeraxian envoy has arrived. They're waiting in meeting room 3. Daniel nodded. The remnants of the council, now reduced to just 50 of the original 200 members, had finally requested formal talks with Earth. Are they alone? Yes. The Velter refused to join the delegation. They're still blaming humans for the Council's collapse. Convenient to blame others for your own failures, Daniel said quietly. He straightened his jacket. Let's not keep them waiting. The Xeraxian envoy was not the former chairperson, but a younger female named Vex. Her scales were a more muted red than most of her species, suggesting a more moderate temperament. Foreign Secretary White. She greeted him with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Daniel took a seat across from her. The Concordance welcomes dialogue with all species, even those who once opposed us. Vex's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of discomfort among her kind. The Council leadership has authorized me to offer Earth special conditions for rejoining. You would have expanded voting rights and exemption from certain trade regulations. Daniel kept his expression neutral. 2 years ago, such an offer might have seemed generous. Now it was almost amusing. I appreciate the offer, but Earth is not interested in rejoining the Council. Perhaps I wasn't clear, Vex said, leaning forward. We are prepared to grant humans equal status with founding races. This is unprecedented. What's unprecedented, Daniel replied calmly, is that you needed to offer it at all. The Concordance already provides equal status to all member worlds as a fundamental principle, not a special privilege. The Concordance is untested, Vex argued. The Council has stood for millennia. Stood and failed to evolve, Daniel said. When faced with change, the Council chose force over adaptation. That's why it's now a shadow of its former self. As their meeting continued, scenes across the galaxy showed how much had changed. On the former colony world of New Eden, now a thriving center of commerce, Governor Frank Miller welcomed ships from 20 different worlds. The planet's population had tripled as refugees and entrepreneurs sought opportunities under Concordance protection. On the Kintari homeworld, human medical teams worked alongside local doctors, treating illnesses that had plagued their people for generations. The exchange program had saved millions of lives. Even in distant Nilarian space, human engineers helped install new defense systems to protect ancient libraries and cultural sites from raiders taking advantage of the galactic upheaval. President Martinez, in her office on Earth, reviewed the latest reports with Secretary Scott. The Concordance now includes 117 member worlds. Trade volume has increased by 60% compared to Council levels. And our security? Laura asked. Solid. The Joint Defense Force includes ships from 32 worlds. The Xeraxians and their allies have maintained distance from our borders. Later that evening, after the Xeraxian envoy had departed empty-handed, Daniel and Samantha watched the station's docking bays from the observation deck. Do you ever regret it? Samantha asked. Leaving the Council, I mean. Daniel shook his head. The Council gave us no choice. They never saw us as equals. And now? He gestured to the ships below. Vessels of every size and design moved in harmony, from massive Andorian carriers to sleek Kintari transports to human cruisers. Now we've built something better. Not perfect, but better. Samantha smiled. All because we were willing to walk away from a broken table and build a new one, Daniel finished, one with room for everyone. On the station's main communication array, messages flowed between worlds that had rarely spoken before Earth's arrival in the galaxy. New trade routes formed. Cultural exchanges flourished. Scientific discoveries were shared openly. Humanity had not ended diplomacy after all. They had reinvented it.